Big Lap Bible. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Brent.
And we are 5 in 15 foot. We are full-time travellers. We left in February this year. We actually originally left in 2020. We got 3 months into our lap and then COVID obviously derailed our plans like it did for so many others. So this is our second attempt at the Big Lap of Oz.
Yep.
We travel with our 3 children.
And each other.
Oh, and each other, yeah. Henry, Matilda and Florence, 5, 3, and she just turned 1.
We decided to do the Big Lap because we were bored in Melbourne and we wanted to see some other states.
Not just that, we wanted to have a bit more quality family time. Brent was working long hours, we had lots of extra commitments and things back home, and we just thought, he had long service leave originally, that's why we first left. We thought this would be a good chance to get away from that, focus on the family, spend some time with the kids when they're at this young age before school, and just enjoy Australia while we did it.
We originally left in January 2020, went up the East Coast, and then through COVID we ended up back in Melbourne, and now we've headed off this way along South Australia, up Western Australia, and we've just arrived in Broome. We're planning to go all the way to the centre and then straight down the guts back to Melbourne. So our current setup is a 15-foot 1970s Glendale Caravan that we originally renovated. We had 2 kids and we just wanted to use it for weekends, and then things just kept going, and now we just ended up taking it around Australia.
We've decided, probably wasn't the best decision.
It was the best decision, but it probably wasn't the smartest decision.
Yeah, look, it came down to we either took this van or we didn't go at all. So we're still glad we're doing it. It's just had its moments. It's definitely not the most practical van. Everything takes that little bit longer. You have to heat up your hot water.
But it is cute.
It's a great conversation starter with lots of people, but yeah, it's definitely had its moments.
Every grey nomad had one of these, apparently.
This trip, as opposed to when we first left on the East Coast, we've actually done heaps more free camps and low-cost camps, national parks, station stays and things like that. We much prefer that sort of style.
But due to the limitations of our van, we have to hurry back to caravan parks probably every 5 to 7 days to get water and
do laundry,
and that kind of stuff.
Top things up. Yeah, I think we've kind of done like a week and a half type thing, and then pop into a caravan park for a couple of days and then go again.
Yeah, we definitely prefer the free camp vibe, or the low cost camp vibe.
Yeah, I don't know, people are just up for a chat and more laid back and not as like claustrophobic. We're currently in a caravan park now.
With 300 sites.
So we're feeling like we're in a big city, but it is what it is.
Oh, we've stayed at some amazing spots. I think for me, Rapid Bay was probably one of the best spots. We just had good weather, good families around us, and we got a ripping spot looking out at the beach.
Yeah, that was up there for me too. We just came from Caravan. We stayed at the campground, Dale's campground there, and not so much the campground itself, but just Caravan in general I absolutely loved. So different to the coastline that we've been on for months, and just like stunning. Like hiking, a bit of adventure as well as just beautiful scenery. When we first left, when we were doing the East Coast, we went to North Stradbroke Island, and we ummed and ahed about it because it's like we couldn't take, or I don't think you can take the van, and it was money to get on the ferry and blah blah blah. And when you're traveling, like you're watching every dollar. But we took the tent, and it was just the best week. It
Yeah.
was barely anyone there. You had the beach. It was so peaceful and quiet, and you just like switched off for a week.
Yeah, North Straddy.
You loved it there.
Yeah, isn't Mackay?
Oh, yeah. No. Well,
Harvey
yeah,
Bay.
yeah. Well, in
Oh,
Mackay, we went to a caravan park, and we rolled in, and we shortly rolled back out. It was just not a great vibe. But I think the area itself wasn't terrible. It was just that park was horrendous. We went up to, I think it's Untitled National Park for the day, and we would have just stayed up there. Now that we are a bit more like set up for off-grid and know what we're doing and more confident with that sort of stuff. But at the time we were like, oh, we need a caravan park. And it was terrible. We would never ever go back there. I think you've pretty much ticked off your bucket list.
Where can't I wait to go? There was a few spots. I think Windarabandi. Oh, Cape Leveque is where I'd like to go next.
Oh,
I
true.
can't wait to go there, but it's very close, so we'll see if we can get there.
I'm keen to go to Manaranka, some of the Kimberley, some of the gorges through there. My kids, like ever since we left back in January 2020, have been like, we can't wait to get to Uluru, and it's literally like one of the last stops, and it's taken us 3 years and we're still not there. So
yeah, they would definitely say Uluru. They talk about it to everybody.
yeah, so when we get there, that's going to be a big day. No pets, 3 children, and that is more than enough for us.
We would just headed off Nullarbor, and we were about 20 minutes into Nullarbor, and we blew a tyre, which was
20 minutes from our second stop, so we're in the middle of the Nullarbor.
sure. Yeah, sorry. So we're in the middle of the Nullarbor, and we blew a tyre out, and the car jack was under 3 kids' seats, so I opted to use the 70s Caravan jack, which was a bit sketchy, but
With road trains flying past.
yeah, we were just kind of on the verge, and there's road trains and caravans flicking past. Not one grey nomad stopped for us, by the way. Thanks, guys. But yeah, we eventually got it swapped over, and we limped that spare tyre, which looks about 20 years old, across the Nullarbor.
A funny time, well, scary and funny, was we have had suspension drama this trip, and we had temporary suspension on our van, and we had booked in to go to Nalu station past Quabba, and we didn't realise, none of the reviews told us, that it was a 60-kilometre corrugated road into the site, and then to get back out you have to go the 60 kilometres back. You're not allowed to drive through the other side. So we hobbled on in there very long after already driving a couple of hours to get there. So the kids are keen to get out of the car at this point. Anyway, we got in there, we got the suspension was in all sorts of drama. So we temporarily fixed it again, and then we had to go all the way back out. So it was just super stressful.
High stress drive.
Not really what you want. But we made it out, fixed it again, and got on to our next spot. What I was going to say about that was that when we opened the door, when we got to Nalu, it was just absolute chaos. A light fixture was hanging off, the wardrobe door had rattled off, one of the drawers that opened, things had bounced all over the floor. A container of couscous had opened, and couscous was all over the floor. It was just absolute chaos, and we just laughed. Like, what can you do in that situation? I laughed.
We have this very small van, and we don't have much power, but my wife decided it was necessary to bring a Thermomix. We mostly use it for boiling water. We may have used it once or twice for cooking.
I've made soups, risotto, flatbreads,
She's made
pancakes.
soup once, risotto once, some pancakes.
We actually, when we were on the East Coast, we used power a lot more, and I used it a lot. But this trip, I probably shouldn't have bought it because we've been off-grid more than we've been on, and it just means that it doesn't get used. We don't have the solar power to run a Thermomix.
The one item I cannot live without is probably my push bike because I like to ride.
Yeah.
How do we funded our lap multiple ways. First and foremost, I'm an Instagram influencer with one viral video. You can check it out at 5 and 15 foot.
It's made us all of $0, so that's definitely not the treat. We initially left, we had savings. Brent had his long service leave, which we took at half pay.
And some annual leave.
And then I do a little bit of freelance design work, and we sell travel stickers and magnets. So we've just sort of launched that business. So
we have our own small business selling stickers and magnets around Australia.
Different towns and stuff. It's trip tags. So check us out.
Shameless plug, trip tags.
Yeah, I don't know. And you've done a little bit of consulting work for your company back home. So it trickles in, but mostly savings and long service leave and that sort of thing. We will probably stop and do a bit of work the next couple of months to get us back home again.
We don't know how much we spend. We don't really want to know. We spend a lot. Our biggest expense, I think, similar to everyone, is fuel, food and accommodation. Apart from that, I don't know what's our biggest expense.
It is. It's literally like our food bills, our grocery bills are like $300, $400 a week. And then fuel is just ridiculous at the moment, as everyone can agree. That's on the road. And accommodation, it varies. Obviously, if you're in a caravan park, it's more. Low cost camping is obviously preferable.
We don't do heap of tours with our young kids. If we're going to do a tour, like Caitlin went and did the whale shark by herself, just because it's not worth trying to get them to go because it's too much money just to have them whinge. Yeah, pretty much.
We've done a few that have been like really good for the kids, like a glass bottom boat, and we're about to do an Aboriginal cultural like walking tour, which I think will be really good for them. But we just kind of do all the natural things that you can go and see for free, and doesn't matter if they're not up for it that day or things like that.
One thing we're learning, or I've learnt about, is tyre pressures. Like we had this caravan for 2 years and I was running one tyre pressure that I thought was right, and then after the blowout in Nullarbor, I had one of the nice grey nomads explain some tyre pressures to me, and that I learnt a lot.
We're running it at the wrong.
Yeah, now I've delved into the world of tyre pressures, car and van and sand and mud and yeah.
No tyres since then, so hopefully we're doing the right thing now. I love being able to wake up in a new spot, a new scene, beautiful like $1 million views right at your front doorstep for like $10 a night. That's awesome. All the quality time. I love quality time, so I'm like all about it. Walks, hikes.
Yeah, I would say my favourite thing about travelling is not working.
That's good too, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. Well, would our biggest splurge be that whale dive?
We don't really splurge
because we can't afford it.
We can't afford it, and we can't fit it.
I think probably the whale dive was like a big splurge for me, but I 100% think it was worth it. It was like, you can't do that in many places in the world. So while we were here, I thought we better do it. Everyone was talking about it. I got peer pressured into doing it, but I absolutely 100% recommend it. Once in a lifetime sort of opportunity.
I think our biggest splurges will go and eat out as often as we can, like once a week kind of thing. But when we're in a town, we'll go and get some food made by somebody else. Yeah,
with no dishes.
No dishes, and yeah.
Well, obviously the Thermomix is up there. It's heavy, hasn't been used that many times. Probably wouldn't bring that. We've just done a big declutter of like shoes, extra toys. We packed way too much Lego, so we're just sending some Lego home.
Because we did the first part of the trip and then we came home, we decluttered a lot then. Like we learned a lot from that section, and so now
this one wasn't
too bad. Although yeah, some toys probably.
We packed the porta cot, which I think we thought we'd pack it in case we were camping.
Yeah.
But we haven't used it, and
No.
if we were camping, she could just sleep in the bed with us. So I think we should have left that at home. But is what it is. Well, we were affected by lockdown. So as we said, we left in 2020. We got up to Hamilton Island when all the borders started closing. We left the island along with like 1,000 staff that day. That was weird. And we actually ended up living in Newcastle for the past 2 years. Brent's auntie lives there. Thanks, Auntie Kaz. Yeah, and we just waited that out. And then we couldn't leave from New South Wales into South Australia when we finally were ready to go again. We had our third child. We're like, yep, we're ready to go. Couldn't go, so we're like, oh, we'll go home via Melbourne, catch up with all our friends and family. We had to wait 2 weeks so we could cross the border from Victoria. Anyway, like 3 days out from being able to go, Melbourne had its last lockdown. So then we got stuck in Melbourne, ended up staying there for another 6 months, waited out for Christmas, school holidays, and then third time's a charm. We finally made it across the South Australia border and had a big breath of sigh of relief. Whatever the saying is, we were relieved.
That being said, because we're in Newcastle and not Melbourne, we didn't get locked down as much, and we didn't experience the same levels of lockdowns as our friends and family from Melbourne.
Yeah, so in a way it was kind of like a blessing in disguise, I guess.
We've got a few trip tips. One of them is don't believe what people tell you about spots. I know other people have said this before, but we've experienced it firsthand. We've been doing hikes with our kids, and we've had someone come the other way and say, oh, you're not going to be able to do this hike with those kids. And then you second guess yourself and, oh, what are we doing? But in the end, you just got to make your own call, because everyone's got such a different opinion on like camping spots, hikes, tours even. We've just learnt not to always take the reviews and people's advice for gold. If you think you want to do it, and if you think you would like it, then
and you read reviews and you still want to go, just go. Like, we've had people be like, oh, don't go there. I'm like, oh, I've already got a booking, and like, I'll cancel it. All there is beach. And we're like, well, that's perfect for us. So like, what's right for one person isn't necessarily right for you. So trust your gut.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll go places and it's not great, but that's part of the trip too. What other tips? Allowing for like down days, especially if you've got young kids. We find that like every few days we need to just stop and like just have a down day, lay low, hang out at the campground or the caravan park. Otherwise everyone gets a bit feral and grumpy and tired, and it's no good for anyone.
Yeah, another tip I'd say is when you meet families on the road, just get their details, and because inevitably people get ahead and people get behind, and just shoot the messages and say, oh, what's this like, what's this road like, because they've usually been there more recently than some of the reviews, and if you're kind of a similar setup, then you get a better idea of what you're up against.
Yeah, that's been helpful. Okay. Alright, so here's our first addition to the van. We had to put in the kiddie gate over the old fly screen because we are travelling with a baby and she pushes on everything. So this is our little, we unscrew the gate from the door here, and we can close that, and that way she can't fall out of the van. Now when we bought our van, actually, it was all pretty good. We didn't need to do, like, structurally, we didn't have to do much. We just gave it all a bit of a makeover. So painted everything, put in new cupboard doors, new handles, bench top, splashback, that sort of thing. So in the kitchen, this actually chopping board we cut out, actually we bought this and it was like the exact right shape and cut for our sink, so didn't even need to worry about cutting out our sink nice and neatly. This just did the job and just gives us heaps more space when we're not using the sink, and also we can cover up our dirty dishes if need be too. Not really too much more to say about the old girl. Never have too many hooks. So many hooks, but they all get used, especially when you're living in the van. When we first purchased Glenda, she was just going to be for weekends. She's had a bit of modifications as we've gone along, added a bit more solar capability. We're still running the old Makita fans because we haven't got enough to run lights or fans, or at the moment anyway. So these are doing the job. We did these curtains. They're just fabric with little leather Velcro straps, and people thought they'd get really annoying when using them every day, but they're so quick to wind up and suit the era of the van a lot more than anything too modern, and don't take up too much like wall space, which I like. I guess the only other thing I could say is this little cubby that I made for the kids has actually been such a big hit this trip. I whipped it up in about, I don't know, a couple nights before we left. So don't look too closely at the sewing job. But what happens is, someone should definitely make this into a business idea. Someone with more know-how and time on their hands than I have. But you just untie these little ties and you've got a little cubby for the bunk bed. So they've got little windows under here. You can say hello, and in and out of this doorway. So sometimes, like when they just need their own space, they can go in there, or they eat breakfast in there. Just watch a movie or two in there. Just gives them a little bit more space. They feel separate from the rest of the van. Just made out of an old, well, not even old, a bedding set from Kmart, so it cost me next to nothing. The only other thing I can think of about what we've changed in the van was, originally there was a big like pedestal table here that dropped down. You could make it into another bed space, and we took it out, and we just have a little trundle table that normally like fits in there, and we slide it out. On the rare occasion where we eat inside, we slide it out and put it there. Most of the time it lives outside, but it frees up so much space in the van, and when you're living in it, like, that is, space is everything. So yeah, we just have a little like fold out table, a little one that we put here for the kids for breakfast, but most of the time we sit outside. And then we have a table here if we need. If it's pouring with rain, it's windy and horrible, we can move it in. But so many people when they come in the van are like, oh, it actually feels so big in here. And it's honestly, it's just taking that table out frees up so much space. So next up on the problem solving was how can we fit a third child in the van. So originally we had the two bunks here. Henry and Matilda were there, and then during COVID planned, but we had another baby, so we're like, okay, we need a third child. So what we've done is converted the couch area. It used to be like an owl-shaped couch, and we cut that shorter, which actually was way better for our bed area. It makes the van feel heaps bigger. We can get in and out of the bed easier overnight too. And then we converted the couch, we made it just a bit deeper, and that's Henry's bed. Matilda's still down the bottom, and then we call this the cage. So it's just a cot that we've cut down and screwed into place. So there's absolutely no chance of flow escaping, and then we can just open it, stick her in, close it. Thankfully she's a good sleeper, doesn't complain too much about that. In here is just some more storage because babies have heaps more stuff. Probably the biggest thing we did when we bought the van was give her a paint job. So originally she was like a cream and burgundy colour, and thankfully Brent's mate at work used to be a panel beater, so he helped us out, sanded it and sanded it and sanded it for days, and then we were able to splash on the paint. Funny story, this is not the colour we actually planned to paint the van. I don't really know what happened, but when it came time to painting, we're like, oh, well, we're just going with this now. So it's a bit darker than we intended, but it's grown on us. Makes her really identifiable anyway. And now she's green. I guess the only other thing I would add is that with these older vans, we don't have like a pull-out awning. Ours is the old vintage slide on the tracks, peg it out, put all the poles in sort of deal. So how other people often just hang their washing off their awning, we can't do that. So what we've done is put in these towel rails all along the front and the back, and we got some of these jumbo clips, and it's actually been awesome just for, like, you know, hanging your bathers out at the end of the day, your towel after a shower, without having to set up the clothesline. This is just a quick, like if we're overnight or things like that, not doing a full load of washing, that does the job.